All right, so thank you very much for having the paper on the program. So as I know, this is a very interdisciplinary conference. There's no slides here. Okay, that's fine. So this is a very interdisciplinary conference. I know a lot of people from IS and from other fields. So I'm coming from finance, right? So as you can see from the title. So I'm trying to make a point about how I think some very classic ideas in financial economics can be applied to understanding the relationship between generative AI and human creatives. And I appreciate your comments on that. So the motivation for this paper is the following. So actually, I remember this paper actually started 2 years ago. I was just on a bus and I was reading the newspaper, and they were talking about the journalists are on strike, and because they are worried about generative AI taking over their jobs. So, and I would look at this, I just begin to think about, is it true that generative AI would necessarily replace human content creators? So that could be journalists, writers, designers, researchers, everyone sitting here. Okay, so this is the question I want to ask. So the key insight that I would like to make in this paper is that I think there is an analogy between the relationship between human and generative AI. I can make an analogy to the relationship between active and passive investors in the financial market. I'll give you more details about what do I exactly mean by that. This is going to be some topic that is very well known in financial economics, but may not necessarily be known to other researchers. But I'm sure that the insight will be very clear if in the next slide when I explain them. Okay, so once I make that analogy, then I would have the prediction that even if generative AI reaches its theoretical limit, they will not be able to completely replace humans. And so this is the kind of the key message I want you to take out. And I will try to present this result in a very simple model. I would say an embarrassingly simple model, but I will have some extension to the model, and so that I can also just talk about some heterogeneous effect in terms of when we're talking about human content creators, when they have different skills. Some are high skill, some are low skill. For different content, some are niche topics, some niche content, some are popular content, and also for content that consumers may have very frequent demand versus have very infrequent demand, and how the implications, the interaction between generative AI and human may differ across these different categories. But I think these are kind of add-ons to the main paper. The real message I want to make is that there's a strong connection of what we are studying here for a lot of people who are not coming from finance, but I think there's an analogy between what finance people knows, and also the implication is that at least some of us will be safe. Generative AI will not completely replace us. All right, so this is the core message, and hopefully I'll have enough time to go over that. So when we talk about generative AI, so we know that generative AI has this parrot property, right? So they are basically sophisticated parrot, because just think about, for example, GPT models. At the core of it is next word prediction, right? Based on the previous words, I'm going to predict what's the probability of next word, and that probability is going to be learned and trained from vast amount of human created content. Okay, so that means that AI needs continuous human-generated content to remain up to date. So this is particularly relevant, for example, for journalism, because journalists go out and look for things that are happening in the real world, which is constantly evolving, right? So, and journalists need to write them up to summarize what is actually going on in the real world. So if we do not have continuous human input, then the AI would eventually just going to be recursively training on itself. And last year, there was a Nature paper, actually, they demonstrate that when AI models are recursively applied to itself, right? You use AI to generate content, and use the generated content to train AI, and then just do this again, and the results just collapse very quickly, okay? So this like parrot property is going to be a key feature driving the result I will present you later. All right, so now the next thing I want to talk about is financial economics, okay? So you may have heard about the concept called efficient market in financial market, whether you do finance or not, you may have heard about it. Okay, the idea of those efficient financial market says that, well, like the financial market price will reveal all information that people have, all the investors have. So there was a very famous paper, all going back more than 40 years ago, in American Economic Review by Grossman and Stiglitz. And the paper, they proposed this idea that they argued that a perfectly efficient financial market is not possible. Their argument is the following. Suppose that the market composed of two types of investors. One we call active investors. What do? They look into the company fundamentals, right? They look at the financial statement. They go to field trips to visit the companies. They talk to the management, right? So they do a lot of costly fundamental research, try to figure out what stocks are worth buying and what are not. And based on their costly research, they decide on their investment decisions. That is the first type of investors, active investors. The second type of investors are so-called passive investors. So what they do, they basically free ride on the effort conducted by the active ones. So because if we assume the financial market is efficient, then just looking at the market price is going to reveal all information that active investors have already conducted. So would say, why bother conducting all the costly research? Let's just look at the price and make investment decisions, like technical analysis, right? Look charts, right? Okay, look at the price patterns. So these are the passive guys, and oftentimes we also like nowadays like a lot of us may just buy the index, right? S&P 500 index. So this is also kind of a type of active investors, because I don't really care about which of the stocks within the 500 stocks is actually going to excel. All I care about is that, well, if a company is really good, the active guys will find them and invest in them. So then I would just basically free ride on the effort that is conducted by the active guys. So then in equilibrium, what will come out is that active and passive investors must coexist. Why? Because we can just think about a kind of a thought experiment, right? If the market perfectly reflects all information, then no one would like to pay to conduct costly fundamental research to acquire information. But then the paradox is that if nobody actually pays to actually acquire information, but the financial market is actually evolving over time, then how can the market price reveal information in the first place? That creates a paradox. Now let's look at the analogy with a generative AI, right? And relating to the parrot property I have just mentioned to you. If AI can produce all content that all our consumers need in a very cheap fashion, okay? Trading is not cheap, but inference potentially is cheap, okay? So if AI produces all content cheaply, then why would the human spend all the effort, right, to produce content? The human will stop producing content. But if humans stop producing content, and the physical world is indeed evolving, how then just like the AI would only be trained on stale information, then the value that AI can produce to consumers is going to decrease over time. And that is kind of a similar paradox to the impossibility of an efficient financial market. And that also means that just by the same token, why active and passive investors need to coexist in the financial market. That tells us that in equilibrium, human and generative AI need to coexist. Okay? So yeah, so this is really the main idea that I've just told you. But we are writing academic papers, so we need some formality. So that's why here comes this so-called embarrassingly simple model that I'm going to put forward, and for you to laugh at me. And so the model is going to be, I'm going to have a unit continuum of consumers, okay? And the consumers, a fraction of the consumers are going to consume human-generated content. I call that fraction lambda. This is going to be endogenously determined in equilibrium. So a fraction of them consume human-generated content, and 1 minus lambda, just another remaining fractions, they are going to just consume generative AI, Gen AI generated content. And I will assume that when humans create content, they incur some cost C, capital C, and generate some benefit to consumers, which is capital R. And for other consumers that use AI-generated content, the cost is going to be lower, which I denote as the lowercase c. And the benefit from consuming those AI-generated content I denote it as lowercase r. And that is going to be a function of lambda, which is just how many human-generated content are there. Okay, the assumption is that when there's more human-generated content, then there's going to be more training, a larger training sample for AI to train. So the quality of those content is going to be higher. Okay, so that here, this is the assumption, right? So the value that is to humans is going to be increasing in the fraction of human-generated content. All right, so if no human is ever creating content, then eventually the AI is going to become stale, so the value it can bring is going to be 0. But if all humans are actually, everyone is actually doing the content generation, then I assume that the benefit is going to be similar to what human-generated content would be. So this is kind of biasing toward that. I'm being favoring the generative AI a lot, right? So I'm just assuming that Gen AI kind of reaching the theoretical limit and can almost be as good as human, which in practice is probably not true, but this result is going to bias against me finding my argument. Okay, so based on this very, very simple model, then you can probably immediately see that in equilibrium, there's not going to be full AI takeover, and there's also not going to be entirely human dominance. So the generative AI is indeed going to encroach on some of the humans' jobs, but it's not going to completely take over. And the reasoning is exactly just the paradox I've mentioned to you in the previous slide. Right? So in a unique equilibrium, it will feature coexistence of human and generative AI and the endogenous level of fraction of human generated content is going to be determined by just the indifference conditions, right? So this is a very simple model. Hopefully, it's a simple model, and that kind of generates all the insight I really want to give over. So I'm going to consider, just very quickly go over a bunch of extensions that I can consider that building on top of this model. So one thing is like, okay, let's look at how does generative AI impact human content creators of different skills. So in this case, I can consider like for human content creators, there are high-skilled ones and low-skilled ones. And the high-skilled ones is going to generate content of higher quality. That means bringing more higher value to the consumers, but at a higher cost. Okay, and the low-skilled ones is going to generate content that of lower quality but at lower cost. And consumers, maybe there's some heterogeneity in terms of consumers may have different how much they value the content generated by human may be heterogeneous. So based on that, some technical conditions, I'm going to skip that. Based on that, what we can find is that before in the introduction of human generated AI, there's going to be coexistence of high-skill labor, high-skill content creators and low-skill content creators, and consumers that do not value the quality very much. They're going to consume content created by low-quality guys, low-skill guys. But once we introduce the AI, it's possible that the generated AI is going to completely eliminate the jobs the content produced by low-skill guys. But it's still, they are not going to be able to take over high-skilled guys. And it's actually even possible for high-skilled guys to earn actually higher profit with the introduction of AI. And the second extension I can think about is popular versus niche content, right? It's just like this is really just captured by the market size of this content. And I'm going to quickly go over the result is that what I found is that for popular content, AI tend to replace human and the low-skill human creators. And for niche content, high-skill creators will coexist. And it's also possible for low-skill creators to be there as well. So basically, in equilibrium, it predicts that there's going to be a reallocation of human creatives toward producing more niche contents. And finally, there's a dynamic extension. So far, the model is just really static. So I can think about what if the state of the world, just like the truth that we really care about, evolves according to some stochastic processes. For simplicity, I assume that's some Brownian motion. And consumers face similar decisions. And whenever consumers may have demand for the content, and that content follows some Poisson arrival. These are just very classic modeling ingredients. And so whenever they have demand for content, they can decide on whether they want to consume content generated by AI or content generated by human. And the equilibrium that will come out of that would be that when there's comparative statics, that depending on how frequent their demand is going to be routine decisions are more likely to be consumed with generated by human content. And infrequent decisions will have more persistent human role. So in conclusion, I think the real message is I think finance does matter, and I'm glad that there's a finance representation when you're in the generative age. And hopefully there's some, I think there's some insight that we can get from this is that even generative AI replace its theoretical limit, it's not going to be completely replacing human. I'm not saying that if there's more new paradigms of AI that this replacement cannot happen. That's not what I'm predicting. I'm just saying that the generative AI that we currently know, under that paradigm, even its performance reaches theoretical limit, at least some of us will still have our job. And that's it. Thank you. Yes?
It's a very intriguing topic about creation.
Thank you.
In the age of AI. So basically, AI is flagship is prediction and creativity, generative AI. So this paper actually we are assuming the AI generated content.
Yeah.
It cannot iterate on itself. So for example, the AI generated content, and then the other AI picks it up and generates another one. And the other one comes and picks up, generates another one. Just like human beings iterate on its own.
Yeah, so
for thousands of years iteration. Can AI do that by itself, or? Yeah,
so that's why I was referring to this Nature paper, because they did an experiment basically describing what you do, and they show that the quality of the content just degenerates very quickly. Just after a couple of iterations, it becomes just basically garbage. Yeah.
So basically, you say if they iterate on AI content,
yeah.
So the result is not optimal.
Yeah, the result is just basically after a couple of iterations, it just might become garbage and useless.
So
yeah.
Maybe is there follow-up on that one? Did that paper or yourself to the study find out why it is that? So human beings' ideas, we can iterate on the human beings' generation content, getting better, right? I think the reason is because the physical world is evolving, and we need to carry the information that all the new things that are happening in the physical world into the training sample. So unless AI can do that, because right now because AI is trained on human-generated content. Right? So that's why I was by the end I was saying if maybe agentic AI becomes a thing, that the agents can actually retrieve information, and maybe I need to make some changes to my conclusion. But if we are following the current training and inference paradigm of generative AI, then I think my prediction will hold. So you introduced the concept of the physical world.
Yeah.
Right? So if you can get the information from the physical world,
right,
or adjust real-time dynamics from the physical world, that's a key point. You're saying that's why human-generated content it is iterationable. Right?
Yeah.
Well, if I apply your findings to journalism, I was thinking about Twitter and how there is a low quality but high dense, high frequency content where you have larger data set available. Your result was reversed. You said if more content will actually still not improve the quality of.
More human content will increase the
low quality.
Low quality, yeah. So here is just if I have if the value that is going to be increasing in both high quality and low quality. If I replace this assumption, I think I'm going to basically make the AI less intelligent. So this result of
right, because it has variety of content, large set of data. I think the size of data set is the parameter that is.
Then maybe here is that because in the popular version niche content, I have a parameter to basically kind of capture how large the market size is. So I don't know whether that may be getting at the point that you're thinking about. Yeah. Okay. I think time is up. And if there's any other questions, please feel free to ask.